And just in keeping with today's program, I'm going to give you 5 minutes to turn to the person next to you or in front of you or behind you. Normally 2 people is the way to go, but if you see somebody that doesn't have anybody to talk to, bring them into your group. Don't be mean. And what I want you to share is all the different things that you would like to learn if only you could. And it doesn't have to be job related, it can be anything. All right? Everybody understand the assignment? Get ready, get set, go. But I am curious as to what kinds of things you all would like to learn. So holler them out to me. What's one thing you want to learn? Macroeconomics. Okay, a class of 1. What else? What? Cooking with chocolate. Okay, maybe I made this too broad. All right. Okay, what else? What? Why? Yes. You're living in the wrong part of town. Okay, mushroom growing. Okay, what else? Butterfly. How to fly. Fairy dust. Don't you know anything? What else? That's it? What happened to lifelong learners? What? Okay, entrepreneurial endeavors, or how to be one of those people. Okay, what else? Entertainment. Okay. What else?
How to financially survive during unemployment.
All right. I think you need to talk to Nicole. She could conduct classes on that. All right. Blogging. What? Advanced FileMaker. Okay, so that's a core skill. All right. One of the things that we talk about in the little handbook, and one of the things we encourage you to do when you're unemployed, is to use this time to create a reputation for yourself as an expert in your field. So if somebody hears about a job, the very first thing they think of is, oh, that would be, that would be that person. So how do you do that? Well, one of the ways you can do that is to blog, and we have a great example of that on our board. I've talked about him many, many times. Jim Adcock started blogging when people first started blogging, and he decided to blog about 2 things. One was his efforts to become an expert in SharePoint, and the other was looking for a job in Austin, Texas. And so those 2 things, he would say, well, I've joined the SharePoint user group in Austin, and I've joined the San Antonio SharePoint user group, and then he was a speaker at both of those groups, and he would talk about speakers that talked at those groups, and articles that he'd read about SharePoint, and classes he'd taken about SharePoint, and all of those things were linked back and forth and into his LinkedIn profile, and so he had all this link juice going. And 3 jobs that he got because recruiters went into Google, put in SharePoint, resume, job seeker, Austin, whatever, and came up with Jim Adcock. And he became the person when a company had an opening for somebody with SharePoint skills. Jim was so well recognized in that field that they would call him and say, do you know somebody with SharePoint skills who's looking for a job that you could recommend? And if he needed something new at that time, he'd say, yeah, I would like to apply for that. And so that's how he got another couple of his jobs. So that was, he used, it all came from his blog, which he continues to this day. The other ways that you can create a reputation for yourself as an expert in your field, be a speaker at a professional association meeting or something like that. And if that terrifies you, we have the answer. We have a Launchpad Job Club Toastmaster group, which meets after this class. So if you want to hang around for Toastmasters and see if you think that would be something that would help you, I strongly encourage you to do so. So you can do a blog, you can participate, comment on other people's blogs if you don't want to do it yourself. You can become an expert in your field through Twitter. And that's sort of a busy person's blog, where you go in every day, a couple times a day, and you tweet something. Here's an article I read that was good, or here's a comment that I have on the current situation in this field, or whatever. So again, you become an expert in your field, and you get followers through Twitter. So there's lots of other reasons as well. So anyway, now some of these other things, I think this is all great. It's good to always be learning something. If you think that you are already in your career field, pretty experienced, pretty expert, just constantly being a lifelong learner. Take this opportunity to learn salsa dancing, learn this mushroom thing, and I think that could start a whole new career for you. Or maybe resurrect an old career. I'm just speculating. I've just come back from Mexico, and that's kind of, I was all over that mushroom thing. So anyway, not personally, but it was I was in the environment. Okay, so anything else that you wanted to learn? What did you people talk about in that 5 minutes? Is that something you want to learn? What do you want to learn? Right, so Stuart did what you would think was the very smartest path to follow. He decided he wanted to go into GPS mapping, GIS mapping, and he talked to an expert in the field and said, "What is your advice? Am I marketable as I am?" And the guy said, "No, you need to go get a master's degree in geography," and he dutifully did that and got a master's degree in geography, and then nobody would hire him because he didn't have enough experience. He had the education but not the experience, so he has struggled with that. So now he'd like to go back to school and get a certificate program, which is a little bit more hands-on, practical work to support that master's degree and make him a little bit more marketable. But this is an opportunity. Unemployment is an opportunity to learn things. Keep your mind fresh. Learn lots and lots and lots of things. And you don't necessarily have to spend any money whatsoever, and it doesn't mean that it's all about WIA. I've got, Ken, would you pass these out on your side? And would you mind passing these out on your side? So it was good to hear Daniel talk about Coursera. That's one of the things that I've listed here, but he talked about other sources of adding to your skill set that I wasn't aware of, and that's why I'm hoping that we will be able to stimulate a big discussion about what's out there that I don't know about. So in this little handout, I started with WIA. That's such a good program, and it provides funding, so you don't have to go into debt, and you can still take classes and learn things. The WIA program will pay for up to 2 years of training in a high-demand occupation. So through this program, we've had lots of people become certified project managers, but also nurses and radiology techs and auto mechanics, and there's just a lot of 75 or 100 different things that you can learn through that program. And the TAA program, which is even better, what you want to learn doesn't necessarily have to be in a high demand occupation. You can pretty much learn anything. So one of the TAA people, you are eligible, by the way, for TAA if your job was shipped overseas, and that is why you're unemployed. And so one of the TAA people didn't want to go into pharmacy tech or one of those. What she really wanted to do was to become a pastry chef and open up a bakery. And that is something that the TAA program will pay for, where the WIA program would not. We even years ago had a job club member who the TAA program sent him to somewhere like Arkansas or someplace, and he went to blacksmith school. And they shipped him up there, and up there was a demand. If you want to take something unusual through TAA, you have to show that there's a demand for it. So anyway, they'll pay for a lot of things. Skill Point Alliance. Some of you, especially some of you who've been trainers, you might want to just keep Skill Point Alliance in your radar. Skill Point Alliance for years offered free computer training. And it was a very small operation. You can still take computer training through SkillPoint Alliance. Go into skillpointalliance.org. It has a very short application, like 5 fields or something like that. And then somebody from the organization calls you and they talk about what level of computer training do you need. Do you need, and nobody in this room qualifies for this, pre-beginner training, in which case you have fallen off the turnip truck and you know nothing about computers, where you don't have to be embarrassed about that. There's a whole program. There's beginner training, there's intermediate, there's advanced, and then beyond advanced, for some of the higher end software, they give you free access to a program called atomiclearning.com. You can go into atomiclearning.com and see the classes that they offer. Normally, you have to pay $60 for the Atomic Learning classes. But you can get them for free through SkillPoint Alliance. Somebody told me that you can also take those classes for free, those tutorials for free, with a library card. So I've not tried that myself, but it might be something that you want to look into. They have since added other classes as well. For a long time, they've had construction classes, gateway construction. They have new training for electrical, for plumbing, a machine shop, machinist training, where that you're actually working in a machine shop. So they have very small classes, 6 to 10 people. The classes go on, I can't remember how long, if it's like 6 months or something, but you end up with some certification. And every person who was in that class, their first class was a few months ago, everybody got a job right away. So we're not a highly industrialized area, but as Ken said, machine shop people, you know how to use a program, a CNC machine, and use a CNC mill or lathe or whatever, drill press, then there's a job for you. And in terms of just electrical and plumbing, if you just are kind of a DIY person, a do-it-yourself person, and you'd like to learn some of those skills, there's no requirement and there's no cost. You don't have to be low income, you just have to want to go to school. They have a CNA program where they have paired up with so CNA is not CCNA, which is the computer security, the network security thing, but the CNA is just certified nursing assistant. But they have a program where you intern in a hospital, so you get that clinical background, and that makes it easier if you want to go up the career chain through LVN, RN, and maybe eventually even get a BSN. So there's that. They're expanding so dramatically that if you want to be in adult education, you should contact or keep looking for possible jobs with the SkillPoint Alliance folks. Lynda.com, most of you know about Lynda.com. It's rather high-end software languages. You do have to pay $25 a month, but you can cram as many tutorials into that 30-day period as you can, and that might be a good way to just keep your skills fresh. I recently had, going through my classes, so for those of you who don't know, I work down the street. My day job is working down the street at the Workforce Solutions office, and I teach 10 different job search skill classes. And I had an individual go through my classes who was a programmer, a consultant, sort of a high-level programmer, and he worked for CSC, Computer Science Corporation, and they place consultants, technical consultants in different companies, and he worked for them from the time he got out of college until a few months ago. 18 years, I think he said, he was with that company and got laid off, and 2 months later, after they laid him off, they called him back. That may happen to you. They decided they couldn't live without him, and in fact, 2 different divisions called him back and asked him to come back. And I said, what kind of programming did you do? And he said, .NET. And I said, oh, I wish I'd known that. I said, I wish I could have figured out a way for you to give tutorials to some of our technical people in Launchpad on .NET, because it is such a marketable skill. And he said, oh, well, while I was unemployed, I just went into Microsoft.com, which is listed somewhere in there. I went into Microsoft.com and I took some tutorials for free to keep my skills fresh. I did an ASP.NET class, I did an MVC class, and he said, and then I went into codeprojects.com and I pulled up some project ideas, and then I practiced by doing those projects, so I kept my skills fresh. Oh, speaking of skills fresh, we didn't talk about Leap to Success. Is there somebody in here who's going to make the Leap to Success announcement? Okay, great. Well, let me talk to you about that then. We'll make this be a twofer. So we have a signature program in Launchpad Job Club that started based on this very need. Programmers who were told during interviews, you haven't programmed in 3 months, 5 months, 6 months, it's too long, you're too rusty, and we can't use you. And so we thought, what can we come up with as a way to give people an opportunity to continue to use their skills? So we sent letters out to the 100 biggest nonprofits in Austin and offered technical services of our people on short-term pro bono projects. And the Leap to Success program was born. It has been extremely successful. In fact, the first year of its existence, it won an Austin award that was given to it by the People Fund organization as being the Nonprofit Advocate of the Year. Since then, we have been asked to provide expertise in non-technical areas as well, where people would want a public relations project created, or a website designed, or marketing deliverables put together, or just a whole different identity for a company and so forth. So we've tapped into the talents of all of our people, and that's a way to continue to use your skills, use your skills, use your skills. And people will give you a good recommendation on LinkedIn. It's something that you can put on your resume, something you can talk about during interviews. And we've had a great many Launchpad people who have gotten jobs because during their unemployment, they have continued to be productive in their career field and to help other people. Lots of Launchpad people, if you look them up on LinkedIn, and it says, what are you currently doing? They will say whatever their job title is, so they'll say project manager, program manager at Leap to Success. And then when somebody says, what is this? Are you working for a company called Leap to Success? They'll say, oh no, it's a consortium of professionals that perform short-term pro bono projects for nonprofits. I've been involved in 3 projects so far. I'm currently on the bench, but when they need someone with my skill set, then I help them out in that way. So it's an altruistic way to promote yourself during your unemployment. So there is that as well. So this guy went into Microsoft, picked up some free training classes, and I've got that listed here. When I went into them last night, I saw that you can go into training and then into their virtual academy, and right now they have 32 different applications where you can get free training online, including all of those. HTML5, by the way, if you look on Indeed.com into their advanced page, they will have a thing called trending, and they'll say these are the top 10 skills that are trending through Indeed throughout the United States. And the number one for 2 months running has been HTML5. And you can get, at least become familiar with that skill through Microsoft.com. They also, because we have a Microsoft.com office here in Austin, they frequently will provide training, and you can get on their mailing list and see what training on new products and so forth they're providing, and you can pick that up as well. Codeproject.com and then projects.com. Projects.com was so interesting to me. They have technical projects listed, they have IEEE projects listed, but one of the cool things is they have like graduate projects listed and with solutions already. So they'll say, here was the assignment. We were hoping to figure out a way to do this, to use technology, to use software or whatever to make this happen. And then it would say, here's what they came up with. They tapped into this existing software and were able to make use of it. And a lot of it was software, most of it was software that I've never heard of before. So it can also introduce you to perhaps some applications or some software that might be applicable in your career field. And then give you some ideas of where you would like to go or what's out there that's hot and marketable. So there was that. Google, if there's a skill that you would like, you can go into Google and just say free tutorial in this topic and see what comes up. So I played that little game last night. I looked on some of the most high demand technology that we hear about. Ruby on Rails is one, very marketable software. And there was a railstutorial.org, and then there was railstutorial.net, which seemed to me to be better. The railstutorial.org was just a real quick free preview that helped you want to buy this book. That was a Rails tutorial, but the .net version seemed to be cool. And there were others as well. .net, so marketable, and I came across this motushaked.com training.net tutorial, and that seemed to be a very comprehensive .net training program that some of you might want to look at. The same thing for Eclipse, Cloudera, free tutorials on Hadoop. So Hadoop is one of the software that I noticed Indeed uses a lot to do what they do, gathering lots and lots of data and then analyzing that data as to, you know, what are people clicking on and so forth. So they hire people, and I've seen more and more job postings where they want you to know Hadoop. So you could go in there, do a tutorial on Hadoop, find that, you know, at least you'd be able to speak intelligently on that topic, and you can see if it has any similarity to something you already know. So it might make you more marketable. The problem with so often these days is that new software are coming out so quickly, and you feel as though your skills are obsolete because you don't have the latest and greatest. Well, you've got a lot. You've got software that has been applicable for a long, long, long time, and do some of these quick tutorials, and then you can say, yeah, I did the tutorial. I don't think it's going to take me long to come up to speed on that. It seems very similar to this, and I've been using that for a long time, et cetera, et cetera. So there's that. InfiniteSkills.com, Tableau software. One of our job club people, in fact, one of our board members, Samuel, just got a job with Tableau software, traveling all around as a product manager for Tableau. But it's a very big software like SAP, like the Oracle software, where it's used in a lot of places, and so he's in learning mode now, trying to come up to speed. The best tutorials I found were all over YouTube, because then it's that you can sort of choose the speaker, the presentation, the length of time, and excuse me. I went into YouTube, and iTunes is the same. There are lots of tutorials on iTunes, and I put in .NET tutorial for beginners with examples, and oh my God, I came up with a ton of things like that. There's one that's VB.NET tutorials, and the full playlist, if you looked at every single thing that's on there, it has 58 videos. It's very comprehensive. Best.NET tutorial, 44 videos, 71,000 views already on the ASP.NET tutorial on YouTube. So there's tons of places where you can get free training. The Coursera, so Daniel mentioned that, and you talked about another one. You want to come up and talk a little bit about the kinds of classes that you took? Yeah, come on up. Talk about what you took and what the other one was as well. We're going to get a lot of input from you guys about where you can go for free training.
Well, Coursera and Udacity were Stanford startups. I imagine they're doing quite well now. And the amazing thing about Coursera, anyway, is that a good majority of their courses, maybe all of their courses, are offered by way of Coursera. But a lot of these courses are from small schools like Stanford, Princeton, Yale, University of Washington, University of Michigan, even some overseas schools. So they got contributions that run from all these schools that run the gamut of disciplines, from computer science, art history, etc. I've taken courses mainly because I'm trying to focus. This focus is important in data analysis, statistics, which have strong computer science components, programming components, and there's a lot of interesting courses that I've noticed in applied sciences that relate to computer science, namely bioinformatics, emerging technologies in DNA recombinant decoding, things like that. So, and in fact, they even have specializations that allow you to take a sequence of classes, a coherent sequence of classes that can grant you a specialization. So it's pretty amazing, and it's about $50 a class, but you can also take the classes free. So I mean, I'm pretty impressed. I write it on my resume. I consider it a tremendous boost to my my intellectual set of skills that I have. So I'm pretty impressed. Udacity is another one. You can check that out. They have these $150 to $200 per month fee, where you can also take the classes free. They specialize more in programming, data analytics. So it's wonderful. You should check it out.
UDA City, okay, UDAS, like university. Okay, very cool. Yes? Right. MIT is listed on this page on the back, and so the MIT X is an OpenCourseWare curriculum that they made available. They've always had for years, for 10 years, they've had OpenCourseWare, and that supported generally people who were taking those classes. But when they started the MIT X program, it was free classes that were taught by MIT staff members, and there was going to be the additional opportunity for interaction with your peers. You could tap into chat rooms with people all over the world who were taking those classes. You could interact with the instructors, and so it was again, you could get a certificate of completion. You did assignments, and they were scored. They were graded by the MIT faculty, TAs at least, and so obviously you're not going to get an MIT degree, but you were taking very, very challenging, very interesting, intellectually based classes. And I put down the Forbes article. It came out in 2010, and they were talking then, no, it came out in 2012, I believe, and they were talking about that program that was about to be started. And if you wanted to do a search for it, Game Changer, Free Online Education for All, that was a wonderful article. And then after that, Stanford started a similar program, and there were lots of other ones. Columbia started a similar program. So there are many, many top-tier universities that enable you to take classes in your field, out of your field, expand your comprehension, and you don't have to pay anything for it. Anybody else have some good resources? Okay, come on down. This is one of my very, very favorite people, Vicki Snyder. Tell us what you know.
I'm with H&R Block, and I just wanted to let you know that during the season, the tax season, I manage the offices. But right now, I have started recruiting to get people to take the class, an income tax class, if any of you would be interested in getting some extra cash during tax season. Our class is $149, but because last year we were so successful with offering it to the job club people here, I have been given the okay by my boss to waive the fees, and we would love to sponsor you. So if any of you are interested, if I could, I'll set up something next week, and the following weeks in the back. I'd love to talk to you, but it's a great opportunity, especially with everything changing in the tax world, and now this year with healthcare being an issue on how it's going to affect your taxes. I just suggest it's something that you think about. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, that's interesting. That would give you, we've had many speakers who've talked about the value in having multiple revenue streams so that you don't have to be totally dependent on one company, one job, that as things come and go, you can still have an alternative way to have an income. And we had a girl, I don't remember her name, she had worked for many years as a program manager with AMD globally, and took off voluntarily to stay home for 10 years or something like that with her family. And every year she did tax preparation for H&R Block. And she got to where she was because she's so smart, she was so good, they gave her the most challenging, most complicated tax returns. And eventually they never gave her any, she went back to H&R Block, but she did taxes for people all year round. And that became sort of her career. But when she tried to get back into technology, and even back with AMD again, as a program manager, where she didn't necessarily need the current technology, she had the management skills, she found it very difficult to break back in. But she continued to generate income through that tax preparation. And now she is an instructor at St. Edward's. But it was that H&R Block experience that helped her. So, you know, you're not tied into one industry, you're not tied into one job. You have a lot of freedom as to what you might want to do. That doesn't mean that you'll do it forever. But most people have a lot of different careers. When I graduated from high school, they told us to be prepared for 3 separate and distinct careers. What they tell the seniors graduating today, be prepared for 6 to 10 separate and distinct careers. We're living longer, we're living more healthfully, so there's no reason why you couldn't continue to recreate yourself over and over and over, just as Daniel's doing. Did I see another hand? Somebody else that wanted a comment?
Nobody got
Oh, yeah.
You had mentioned .NET. I'm not familiar with .NET.
I have no idea. It's a computer software. I'm an English major, okay? It's computer. It's a software program. The ASP.NET is the Microsoft program. What does it do? Right. And you use it to do what? So it's like a real basic. It's a basic one that makes you create websites and other things, all sorts of other applications.
Software get from anyone to major, C#, JavaScript, anything. Some of these are object-oriented. Normal term that allows you to take advantage of code that's already been written, not use software reuse.
Okay, I wish I'd had that on the video, on the audio. So it is a set of software routines. Oh, why don't I give him the mic? Please.
Okay, if you want to know about .NET, basically, if you need to know about .NET, okay, it's just a set of software routines that Microsoft has included. It's kind of like what used to be called a subroutine library, where you could take a native application written in, say, C#, C++, VB, ASP, whatever. It's a set of shared code that allows you to inherit various features from the software, so you do not have to rewrite the same old code over and over and over again. For instance, you can get stuff like a template for Excel, and you would write you would take the C# code, say, and then you would use the documented calls to actually implement a spreadsheet within your application. But you would take advantage of the actual code that's already been written, so that you have software reuse, and it reduces your time to completion of your projects. It's a very major learning curve, and how do you say, there's a whole bunch of work to learn how to really use it effectively.
Lady, what is your job? What kind of work are you looking for?
Trader.
Stock trader. That's what you want to do?
Yes, I'm a trader.
Okay. Trader with a D. Okay. Well, you know a lot. But did you used to be a programmer?
Oh, yes, I have 25 years of experience or more.
All right. But you're done. You're done being a programmer. You're not. Oh, okay. Oh, all right. All right. So once you know the technical underpinnings of various jobs, you can always do them better because you know the guts and the infrastructure of it as well. All right. Okay. So at any rate, I hope that everybody will think about this. Even things like, YouTube is so full of instructions on everything. If you want to learn Spanish, if you think that it would behoove you in your career field to be bilingual, go in there and take some Spanish courses. People are always asking me, how do you learn Spanish for free? Do you have any people? Well, go on YouTube. Go on iTunes. There's so much instruction out there. Ignorance is almost like not a possibility because there's so much out there.
Case in point, YouTube. My washer breaks down. I'm like, what's the deal? I go, I Google it. Hey, it'll wash, but it won't rinse. And sure enough, my propane washer will wash, but won't rinse. YouTube, if this is it, this is how you do it. It's very simple. Wow, okay, the part's $26. I go to eBay, I ordered it for $5. It took me an hour. I fixed something that would have been a $100 service call, and it was all right there.
It was all right there. So Don Lujan, facilities manager extraordinaire, and he fixed his washing machine through YouTube and eBay for $5. All right, an hour worth of labor.
An alternative for learning quite a few languages is the free mobile app Duolingo.
Duolingo, let me talk to you real quickly about Duolingo and then we're going to close up. I went on Duolingo to try to learn Spanish recently, and the story of Duolingo I love. So the guy that created Duolingo is a young guy. He received the MacArthur Genius Award for Duolingo, but he said at any given time there were something like, I can't remember the number anymore, 3 billion people, 13 billion people who are trying to learn another language. And in most cases, it's so that they can get a job. And he said, but these people are poor. And so they can't afford Rosetta Stone. They can't afford to go to a university. So he came up with this idea for Duolingo and got native speakers from lots of different languages to speak, to record their voices, to work for this, and then made it available for free. And they will never charge anybody any money. It's always going to be free. But you have to monetize it. You have to have a way to keep it going. You can't rely on all nonprofits, all things that are services to people have to figure out how are we going to keep the machine working. And so they do translation for corporations. That's what supports them. And he challenges people. In the article that I read about him, he challenged people and he said, what is a need that people all over the world have? And then how can you come up with a way to meet that need? And these days, poor people don't have transportation always, but a lot of poor people have access to the internet. They have a phone, or they have a communication device. Even when they don't have much money. So they can use the communication device in order to expand their horizons, improve their living standard and so forth. There's a solution, and he challenges people to think about those problems and come up with those solutions, and to share and to tap into other people's brains and resources in addition to do that. So I appreciate all the sharing of information, and I hope we'll continue to do that. So anyway, keep those brain cells functioning. By the way, I did not tell you that because I was out of town last Friday, the second Friday of the month is normally when we do resume tweaking. So we're going to be doing it this Friday, this month only. And what that involves is you bring 5 copies of your resume. We meet right across the highway in the consultingsolutions.net offices. So it is the office building directly behind the Doubletree Hotel. If you want to actually have an address, it is 1016 La Posada, LAPOSADA, Suite 297. And we meet over there at 2 o'clock. Normally we stay till 4:30. We break you up into small groups. We try to put technical people with technical people and English majors with English majors. And I don't know if we're going to have the volunteer services of our PhD resume expert today or not, because I was out of the communication loop. She may be there, but I don't know for sure. But we tweak and critique each other's resumes, and we do this once a month, and it's going to be today.